Greetings and salutations, Second Star right back with some more Raid Shadow Legends, and today we had a very serendipitous event transpire here in that the video had been working on and preparing for, the next champion I wanted to showcase, is part of the Fusion event. So I want to talk about Exemplar, and there she is on the far right hand side, just waiting to be food for a god among champions. Tormin is insane, and I'm sure it's been a day, and I'm sure everyone's sick of seeing this screen. But anyway, I just want to show that Exemplar here should not be overlooked completely. Exemplar is a fun champion, and if you are just starting out, free to play, whatever, you don't have all these resources, feel like you will never have all these resources, but you do happen to have like a retainer and Ifrit or Amarantine Skeleton and whoever the other guy is, I can't remember, and you have the opportunity to fuse an Exemplar, might as well give it a shot. I will give you some examples of why I think that's a good idea. Maybe fusing Rowan might be a better idea, but if you have these ones and you can fuse an Exemplar, well, let me tell you what I like about this champion. The first thing that you will notice, though, is that her portrait and her character model bear little to no resemblance to one another. I don't know what happened there. Plarium's usually pretty good about aligning these things, at least a little bit, but what we have here is kind of somewhere between Jillian on her 37th birthday and what lies beneath Michelle Pfeiffer. And what we have as a character model is kind of a frightened teen cosplayer going to her first Ren Fair, and she does not look ready at all for whatever it is she's going to be chasing after, and she can't pick up that claymore. There's no way. That weighs more than she does. Contrast this with Hyria. Oh, look at her. Hyria is all business, all about the ass kicking. I think that Exemplar kind of looks like Hyria's handmaiden. You know, like, hey, Hyria, here's your sword. So anyway, I digress a little bit. I think the character model, her kind of doe-eyed demureness belies her actual capability, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. First, let's look at skills. Okay, so her high stance attacks one enemy 2 times and places an extra hit if the attack is critical. So right away that tells you definitely need at least 100% crit, or a way to get around to 100% crit on this champion to take full advantage of her A1. Right? Her pincher attack, A2, attacks 3 times at random, and each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken for 2 turns. That's not bad. 50% chance for 25% weaken. That is good stuff. Now, especially, look at this. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, but you can get it down to a 2-turn cooldown. So you can potentially have weaken up 100% of the time if you chose to book this champion. So, and a lot of times I'm wary about putting epic books into a champion, but I actually kind of think having permanent weaken is a good idea if you're lucky enough to get that with 5 books. Can you imagine? A3 is Capture. This is a pretty hard-hitting attack. Attacks an enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a freeze for a turn, and a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. So you have 3 good options here. You either kill the target outright with the pretty high DPS damage that this attack has. If you don't kill it outright, you can freeze it, and otherwise you can block its cooldown skills for 2 turns. Now, I don't know if the freeze has to hit for the block cooldown skills to hit. I don't think it does. I think these things can all happen independently of one another. I don't actually remember, and I played her a lot, but I didn't think about that until right now when I'm talking about it. That makes sense, right? Okay, so I have her geared to close to the thresholds that we need, but not quite, and I will tell you my thinking behind this. So speed, you don't want her to go first. You usually want your buffer to go first, but if you don't have one, it's not bad for her to go first, because she can usually take out a target right away. Her crit rate should be 100%. I swapped out her crit rate gloves for crit damage gloves, so that's why her crit damage is a bit higher than usual, and this was even higher before when I had Flawless Execution chosen, but right now Flawless Execution is off. So with Flawless Execution, it was 205%. And I think there's kind of like a bit of a threshold that you kind of have to kind of feel out between what's better for your Masteries, Flawless Execution or Giant Slayer. I did not try Helm Smasher because none of her skills ignored damage intrinsically, and I wasn't gonna, since I wanted to put her in life steal and not a bunch of cruel gear or whatever. I just thought this would be better, and would maximizing your potential as much as I could. If a champion has skills that ignore damage, Helm Smasher I think has more utility, but this is just my opinion. And then accuracy, you want some accuracy up for the weekends to land. Alright, so in Masteries, right now, she is... Oh, I have to move my... let me move my face, don't I? Whoa, that's not my face. You, screen. Select, okay. Alright, so... this circular pattern that I have going here serves a purpose. I wanted to go with Grim Resolve when attacking 50% hit points or less, because she's attack and squishy, but in lifesteal gear and with how hard she hits, she does benefit a lot from Grim Resolve. She would also have benefited from Life Drinker, but I wanted to be more DPS focused than survivability focused, so that's why I went with that. And of course we're going to take deadly precision and crit damage, because that's kind of what you do unless you're in a bomb squad. Singling out less than 40% hit points, increased damage by 8%. I just wanted the end of the battles to go faster, and that's a good way of doing it. Cycle of Violence is good because she does hit very hard, and so that's going to proc a lot. Bring it down. I was thinking squishy, not a lot of hit points are not necessarily her strong suit, so I thought she would get some utility out of that. Kill streak, I chose kill streak instead of, what was this, the other one, methodical, because she kills a lot. She does land the killing blow quite often, so this just gives you an extra 2%. The blood shield, she does frequently kill her target, and that makes the rest of her opponents angry, and they'll try to retaliate against her on the next turn. So having that shield up helps mitigate that somewhat. And like I said, I tried all of these. Flawless Execution was great. After 200% crit damage, it's pretty much on par with Giant Slayer. Although Giant Slayer on bosses does a little bit more damage. Maybe not going through the waves as much, but once you get to the boss, if you're like around 200%, a little bit under 200%, I think it's better to have Giant Slayer than Flawless Execution. That's all kind of gear dependent though, and test it out, see what you like. You can reset once, so if you don't like the way one works, you can try the other one. We already know that War Master doesn't procs the way it should rather than the way it shouldn't. And also just a little bit more accuracy to land the weekends. None of these will impact her freeze, but it will impact the block cooldowns and the weekends. So I went that route. Although definitely, you see, I definitely focused more on the DPS because that's what she's about. Exemplar is a DPS beast. Okay, so let us carry on, shall we? Okay, now this is Fire Knight's, this is 13, where we're in right now, where I have Cold Heart, Apothecary, Tyrell, Skull Crusher, and Exemplar over there on the right. Exemplar is actually really, really good in Fire Knight. You don't necessarily think of single target DPSers as this being the place for them, but because she has 2 skills with 3 hits associated with them, she actually works really well against the Fire Knight shield and bringing that down, especially when you're on auto, where if you only have 1 multi-hit attack on your champion, oftentimes you're going to waste 2 attacks because the AI is idiotic and doesn't understand the whole point of the Fire Knight shield being up. You just want to get it down. You don't care about all the other cooldown abilities. It just doesn't understand that for some reason, and it's super frustrating. But with Exemplar, the potential is only there to waste 1 of her skills. So I'd much rather take that than the constant slamming of Heartseeker and Art of Pain get the Fire Knight shield. Drives me crazy. Okay, so here we are at the boss, and maybe a Fellhound would have been better than Tyrell, as someone brought up in my comments before. And I do have Fellhound at 6 stars, but he's in a weird gear spot right now. I was trying to get him ready to try to tank spiders, and I was trying experimenting around. I can't quite get it to work, and so he's not in a good place to be actually used right now. I have to work on him some more. But once a Skull Crusher gets his counterattacks up, this boss fight goes much smoother. And this is also a Flawless Execution mastery. This was before I recorded this before I changed it to Giant Slayer, so you won't see any of the extra hits on the boss. You see, there's an A2 multi-hit A2 doing some work rather than just taking 3 hits off rather than just 1. Trying to work around the AI as best I can. She's putting up some pretty good damage numbers though, isn't she? That was the defense down. She didn't crit. Yeah, that's right, because ordinarily I'll bring in a champion with a crit rate aura, but I only have Longbeard for that right now, and he's not very good in this dungeon. I mean, he can be okay, but he's not ideal. Okay, there we go. Because we had landed our weekends. Tyrell landed defense down, and Coldheart's Heartseeker came in pretty hot and heavy. As we can see, we did out damage Coldheart. Coldheart is really good DPS, as everyone knows. And Exemplar, with their Flawless Execution, was able to win the day, win the DPS race, as they say, in this particular fight. And now I'll switch over to what's my next fight? Okay, this is Ice Golems, and this is actually 14 rather than 13. 13 I consider like the farming stage, right? It's the first stage available that has 6-star gear. This one is 14 because Longbeard kept killing us on stage 13. He actually we did so much damage once that we got Frigid Vengeance twice in a row, which was was really something. Now there, I'm back. And also, just a side note, Zelata's has those 2 sleep skills. If you know you're going to be using Zelata as your support like all the time, it's going to be like your main support, using Opportunist mastery, which gives you increased 12% damage against sleeping targets, can be really beneficial. So, and I'm using Longbeard, of course, for his crit rate aura to bring my crit rate up to 100%, so I can use crit damage gloves and do just a bit more damage. Now, there are a couple other champions with crit rate auras that you can use if you don't have Longbeard and you wanted to use an aura instead of crit rate gloves to get your crit rate up. Luthia is one that is an all battle one, or maybe dungeons, I don't remember. There's only a couple that have crit rate boosts in all dungeons and in all battles. Most of the time when you see a crit aura, in fact Exemplar has a crit aura, it's going to be only for the arena. And Exemplar is okay in arena. She's not great. I couldn't get her to work in arena personally because I was running tanky teams and I didn't really have a space for her. I think she'd been much better in a fast team, which I just don't have right now. But you can use Luthia, you can use Pitiless One, Confessor, Um, who else? Warcaster, Talia, and Galkut has one too. So you can use those champions. Alternatively, you can use a champion with a crit rate boosting skill like Mausoleum Mage or Hexweaver would also work. And preferably booked so you can get it up more often. Alright, I think we're going to lose Zelita pretty soon. Now, I know that most people prefer like an AoE DPSer rather than a single target DPSer. I definitely think that they have their uses. I think you can control a battle pretty well by taking out, a certain irritating opponent. Like I'm pretty sure I said that before. But Exemplar is not the only one that can do that, obviously. And there we go. Victory. Knight Errant. Look at that. She did 828,000 damage. She outperformed everybody by a long shot. And that's a pretty impressive result. Longbeard only did less than 200,000, maybe even did less than 100,000 damage. I don't know, but Exemplar did all the heavy lifting here. But again, there's other champions that perform in a similar manner. Knight Errant does the same thing. Horden performs similarly, and of course Relic Keeper. So I think that you should find a single target DPS that you like and build one up. So just so you have them and use them. You don't have to just use Skull Crowns and Sineshas and Bellowers for everything. Single target DPS has some great utility, and I'm a firm believer in having one around for occasionally, because sometimes they can make a tricky battle go much better if there's like one opponent that you're having a hard time locking down or getting rid of. Definitely think about bringing in the poor, neglected, single target DPS champion. So I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun. I enjoy Exemplar a lot. Definitely an overlooked champion that people don't use very often. And so this is just her in action. If you were ever curious about her, there you go. I thought this was pretty comprehensive. If you liked it, please throw a like my way. Definitely subscribe if you can. I certainly could use that. And any questions or comments, just put them down below. I respond to comments pretty consistently. And I want to thank you. I really appreciate it. I had a good time making this video. I had a lot of fun running Exemplar through a lot of dungeons. Not spiders. Don't use your spiders. Not going to go well. But everywhere else, just fine. All right, thank you. Take care, and I will see you next time.